The wait is over. What was once called a rumor, a dream, even a conspiracy, has now exploded into undeniable reality. Exchange floors are jammed wall to wall, armored trucks are rolling non-stop, and ordinary people are walking out of banks as millionaires. This isn't speculation anymore. It's history in the making, and the world is watching as the revaluation shakes the very foundations of the global financial system. Welcome back to Dinar Community Channel. The reality of the long-anticipated revaluation event has finally erupted into a scene of financial history being made, and the phrase, exchange floors packed to the limit, hardly begins to capture the full scope of what is happening. For years, speculation, doubt, hope, and strategy have circled endlessly around the possibility of the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong revaluations becoming more than rumor, more than theory. Now, as banks across the world report unprecedented traffic and exchange centers confirm full capacity, the truth has broken through speculation. The revaluation is real, and it is unfolding with such intensity that global financial institutions are straining under the weight of sudden demand. From the early morning hours, individuals began lining up outside regional exchange centers and major metropolitan bank branches, with some arriving the night before to secure a position as word spread that rates had finally gone live. These weren't the casual curiosity seekers of the past. These were committed holders who had waited years for a moment that many had been told would never arrive. The atmosphere inside these centers was electric, a mixture of disbelief and celebration, where whispers of contract rates, tiered appointments, and exchange packages rippled through the rooms as bank employees tried to maintain order. Security presence was stepped up immediately, as armored vehicles rotated in and out of parking lots, visibly collecting and transferring cash reserves needed to meet the explosive demand. This reality check is not just about numbers on a screen, it is about the human stories behind them. Elderly couples who had quietly held onto stacks of currency as part of retirement plans now found themselves on the brink of financial transformation. Young investors who had been mocked by peers for chasing a myth walked into banks with a smile of vindication. Veterans who had first encountered the Iraqi dinar during deployments years ago now carried their holdings back into the same financial system that had once dismissed them. Families sat together in lobbies, clutching documents, passports, and currency bundles, waiting for their names to be called. The sight was both chaotic and historic, resembling less a typical banking day and more the rush of a stock market crash in reverse, except this time wealth was flowing into the hands of ordinary people instead of draining out. Financial analysts had long predicted that, if such an event were to occur, the surge in demand would break standard infrastructure, and that prediction has proven correct. Appointment systems designed to handle hundreds of transactions per week were suddenly hit with requests in the tens of thousands, crashing online scheduling portals and forcing banks to revert to manual coordination. Call centers were inundated with wait times extending beyond 3 hours. Social media platforms buzzed with photos and videos of long lines wrapping around city blocks, while some smaller towns saw their modest exchange offices forced to shut down by midday after exhausting all available liquidity. At the corporate level, major banks scrambled to activate overflow locations, flying in specialized staff trained in foreign currency redemption, while back-office departments worked around the clock to reconcile ledgers and update internal systems to reflect the new reality of exchange rates. The global scale of this revaluation is equally staggering. Reports from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East confirm the same phenomenon: packed lobbies, overwhelmed staff, and security cordons to handle the crowds. In London, the financial district resembled a festival as private wealth managers hurried to meet clients in person, while across Germany, currency counters operated non-stop with no pause for breaks. In Dubai, long queues of exchange clients extended into the luxurious mall corridors, drawing curious onlookers who wondered what monumental shift had just taken place. In Canada and Australia, the story repeated with remarkable uniformity. Every center, whether in Toronto or Sydney, reported capacity maxed out within hours of opening. And yet, despite the rush, there is a sobering reality embedded in this frenzy. The process is not instantaneous, nor is it without complications. Many holders discovered that documentation requirements were stricter than expected, with compliance officers scrutinizing every detail to ensure legitimacy and compliance with anti-money laundering laws. Some who rushed in without proper paperwork found themselves turned away, while others faced delays of days or even weeks before their appointments could be rescheduled. Bank representatives, trained to remain professional under stress, were pushed to their limits as emotions ran high among clients who had waited for years for this opportunity. There were tears of relief, outbursts of frustration, and even moments of panic when rumors spread about centers reaching their daily quotas. The ripple effects of this event extend far beyond the exchange floors. Real estate agencies reported immediate spikes in inquiries as freshly exchanged individuals sought to purchase homes outright. Car dealerships saw customers walking in with cash offers, some even before the ink on their deposit slips had dried. Financial planning firms began fielding waves of calls from new millionaires unsure of what steps to take next, while tax consultants reminded clients that obligations would follow even in the midst of celebration. The media, which had largely ignored or downplayed the revaluation movement for years, suddenly scrambled to cover the story, sending reporters to exchange centers to capture the extraordinary visuals of ordinary citizens walking away with life-changing financial outcomes. For the governments involved, particularly Iraq and Vietnam, the revaluation represents a pivotal moment of global re-entry. Iraq's bold move to anchor its currency at rates that rival some of the strongest in the region signals not just economic reform but a declaration of sovereignty and stability. Vietnam's decision to follow suit reinforces its rising role as a manufacturing powerhouse and global trade partner. Both nations have drawn intense interest from investors, multilateral organizations, and sovereign wealth funds that now view them as legitimate players in the new economic order. The influx of capital is expected to reshape infrastructure, expand markets, and, for Iraq especially, transition the country from a war-torn past into a modernized, globally integrated economy. Still, this reality check carries a warning: with opportunity comes risk. Scammers have already begun circling, preying on the inexperienced and desperate by offering false, priority exchanges, or claiming inside access to better rates. Law enforcement agencies issued urgent alerts reminding citizens that official exchanges would only occur through recognized financial institutions. Online forums, once filled with speculation and doubt, now overflowed with both celebration and cautionary tales of those who fell victim to fraudulent schemes in the rush of the moment. Seasoned investors urged restraint, advising peers not to rush blindly but to make informed, deliberate choices that would protect their new wealth for the long term. Inside the packed exchange centers, the stories keep unfolding. A mother who had quietly accumulated dinar while raising 3 children whispered to her banker that she could now finally fund their college educations without loans. A retired veteran sat in stunned silence as his balance sheet transformed before his eyes, murmuring that the wait had been worth every hardship. A group of young entrepreneurs pooled their resources after cashing out, already sketching plans for a startup that could leverage their newfound capital. These personal stories, multiplied by millions, form the living proof that what once existed as rumor has now crossed the threshold into history. The energy on the floors is one of urgency but also transformation. Staff members, while exhausted, recognize they are part of a once-in-a-generation event, something that will be recorded in economic textbooks and remembered by communities for decades. The sight of armored trucks loading cash at one end of the building while newly wealthy clients exited the other marked a surreal intersection of financial logistics and human aspiration. Each completed exchange not only shifted an individual's life trajectory but also contributed to the broader recalibration of the global financial system, where dormant wealth suddenly entered circulation, stimulating economies in ways still too early to measure. It is important to acknowledge that not all reactions are celebratory. Some longtime skeptics, watching the lines and reports, expressed frustration that they had dismissed the opportunity. Economists warned of potential inflationary spikes if the influx of new millionaires led to unchecked spending. Politicians debated how to frame the event, some praising it as a victory for global cooperation, others cautioning against instability. Even within the financial community, there is ongoing debate. While some institutions celebrate the liquidity and expansion of client portfolios, others worry about strain on banking systems, resource allocation, and the potential for unbalanced wealth distribution. Yet the undeniable truth remains: exchange floors are packed to the limit because something extraordinary has taken place. The theories have materialized into reality, and the people who dared to believe and hold on have found themselves at the heart of a financial event that no longer belongs to rumor but to history. The reality check is here. This is not a drill, not speculation, not the promise of a future date always deferred. It is happening, right now, in real time, with real consequences for individuals, communities, nations, and the world. In the days to come, the lines will eventually shorten, the chaos will settle into order, and the systems will adapt to this new economic normal. But for now, in these packed rooms where voices echo, where tension and joy mingle, where the weight of currency is matched only by the weight of expectation fulfilled, the world is witnessing the tangible manifestation of one of the most anticipated financial shifts in modern history. For every individual stepping onto those crowded exchange floors, the reality check is overwhelming, exhilarating, and undeniable. The revaluation has arrived, and nothing will ever be the same again. Like and subscribe for more videos.